And then Local 4's own Carmen Harlan reflects on her favorite memories of the judge. We'll be talking to Carmen live in just a moment, but first she has a look back at the life of the civil rights leader.
Independence Day, the birthday of our nation and of Judge Damon Keith. A fitting day for someone who has spent his life defending the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. Judge Keith has served as a United States Court of Appeals judge of the Sixth Circuit Court since 1977, and prior to that, has served as Chief Judge of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Michigan. Through it all, he has remained open to sharing his wisdom with others.
Man will never discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of the shore.
Judge Keith's courage and relentlessness to challenge the injustices of the law at a time when there were few black lawyers earned him the respect of his peers.
When I was practicing law, there were no black judges over in Recorder's Court on Wayne County Circuit Court, and they used to treat black lawyers like dogs.
Judge Keith's earlier experiences set the foundation for how he conducted his courtroom.
Now, Carmen, I've been on the court for 37 years. I have never once held any lawyer or any litigant in contempt of court. I just have never done that because it's my job to set the tone in the courtroom, to be nice to people, to treat them like I would like to be treated.
His message resonates with those he has mentored and continues to mentor, most notably Jennifer Granholm and Lonnie Guinier, teaching them to always strive to uphold the law as our founding fathers intended.
I try to teach my law clerks by example that we cannot fight all the battles, all of the injustices that come through our court. So let's sort of select the ones that we will go to the wire on, the ones that will have the most effect in terms of Americans all over the country.
Your law clerks look upon you as a father figure. Many of us in Detroit outside of the field of law look at you as a father figure. How do you balance it all?
Carmen, you've known me a long time, and I don't take myself too seriously. I don't. I go to church every Sunday. I go to Tabernacle Missionary Baptist, and every morning before I start work in this office, I close that door, and I have the Bible there. I read from it. I read from the Proverbs and the Daily Word. I try to give thanks to God for all of His blessings.
In solitude, Judge Keith draws from his innermost wisdom, gaining strength to fight for justice. He established the cornerstone for history, telling President Richard Nixon he could not wiretap without prior judicial approval.
The cases that I guess I'm identified with, like the Keith case where I told President Nixon and John Mitchell that they could not wiretap without prior judicial approval. They call it the Keith case now. It went to the Court of Appeals, and I was affirmed there. And then the Supreme Court unanimously affirmed. And as a result of that case, Nixon had to turn over all of the Watergate tapes.
Standing firm and unyielded by attempts of government officials who trample on the civil liberties of the American people, brought yet another landmark decision in 2002.
I'm able every now and then to make a decision that affects the whole country, like I did in the Detroit Free Press versus Ashcroft, where the famous words, democracies die behind closed doors, where I told Attorney General Ashcroft and President Bush that they had to open up hearings about the immigrants to the papers and everybody. We have to have open hearings. There are no proceedings that can go on in closed doors.
Through his humble demeanor, Judge Keith may make it seem like all his success came easily. His chambers, a regular who's who, pictures of celebrities, entertainers, politicians, sports heroes, you name it. Judge Keith calls them all his friends. He attributes where he is today to his father, driven by the expectations his father had for him that one day his son would make a difference.
I had to struggle all of my life. My father worked in the factory, in the Ford factory, with no benefits, no insurance, no sick days. If you didn't punch in, you didn't get paid. And I could see him going to catching the Grand Belt streetcar, going out to the Ford factory in ice and snow to make a livelihood for my family. And I feel as though I could not let him down, and my mother and my family, or my race, or my country, by not doing what I can to make life better for everyone.
Judge Keith still lives in the same city that his parents worked so hard in, optimistic about the future of Detroit, the place he calls home.
I have lived in the same house where I've lived for over 30-some years. We've got to make the school system such that young mothers and fathers will want their children and family to stay here. That's critical in terms of attracting an integrated society.
Tell me about just what life is like in general.
For me?
For you.
Oh, it's just absolutely magnificent. My wife and I have been married for 50 years, and we have 3 daughters who we're very happy about, Cecile, Debbie, and Gilda, and 2 granddaughters, Ania and Kamara.
His message is universal: patience, respect, and equal justice under the law. At the end of the day, our Father is happy knowing he made a difference.
My wife, Rachel, and I were walking out. We were on the elevator, and some lady I did not know said to me, "Judge Keith, I've never met you before, but they tell me you are kind, that you're fair, that you're understanding, and that you're compassionate." And then she stated this, "and that you are a legal giant and that you're brilliant." I said, "Nah, I don't know about all of that, but I'm happy that you said I have a reputation for being fair and kind and compassionate. That makes me feel good."
Wow. Fair,
Isn't that
kind, and
amazing?
compassionate.
Carmen joins us live now. Carmen, you received the 2018 Soul and Spirit Humanitarian Award. That was the judge's annual luncheon. What did that mean to you?
Rod, all I can tell you is I was pretty much speechless when I got the call from Judge Keith a few months in advance of that, and he let me know that it had been a decision made by not just himself, but a group of people, and they decided that they wanted me to receive that award. And so it meant a great deal. I attended many of those luncheons, and I know who the past honorees were, and to be considered and thrust into that category was beyond words. So to say that I was elated is just putting it mildly. It was quite an honor from him and all of those who voted for me to receive that award. But before we go any further, I learned about Judge Keith's passing today, just a few hours ago, along with the rest of the city. And I just want to extend my condolences to his daughters and his family and grandchildren, and let them know just how deeply saddened I am by the news. But I know he loved them dearly. They were the most important people in his life, and he'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable loss, not just for Detroit, but really the entire nation. Carmen, for those who didn't know Judge Keith, what do you think they need to know about him that made him just unique as a judge and a person?
You know, it's interesting that, you know, when we lose icons and legends and giants like Judge Keith, that, you know, to discover that there's some people, and certainly a lot of younger people, who might not know of his legacy and the contributions that he made, not just in the legal field, but certainly in a city like Detroit, that it would be worth their while to take the time to study him and find out why his name is associated with the Wayne State University Law School there, and what those decisions not only meant in his life, but what it has meant in their lives as well. And so if they're looking for a study in courage, if they're looking for a study in civic responsibility, you heard him talk about being a kind person, if they're looking for a study in that, it's well worth their time to sit and reflect and learn more about who the judge, who the man, Judge Damon Keith really was.
Carmen, we're sorry for your loss. We're sorry for everyone's loss here today, but thank you very much for being with us tonight to share your memories of Judge Damon Keith. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carmen.
And thank you for asking me.